We're looking at number 10 from the first semester final exam. The question says, the roots of the equation 2x squared minus x equals 7 are 1. Real and irrational, 2. Real, rational, and equal, 3. Real, rational, and unequal, or 4. Imaginary. Anytime you have a question that's asking you what kind of roots these are, it's a good time to use the discriminant. And the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. In order to know what is the b and what is the a and what is the c, we have to get the quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If you look at what they've given us, it's not quite in the same form since that's not equal to 0. What could we do here so that this equation does equal 0? Well, we can subtract the 7 from both sides. So I'm going to do that right here. The equation they give us is 2x squared minus x equals 7. To get it equal to 0, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. None of these are like terms, so we end up with 2x squared minus x minus 7 is equal to 0. And now we can use the discriminant. The discriminant here, the a, first of all, is a 2. The b is a negative 1. And the c is a negative 7. So b squared is negative 1 squared. Notice how I use those parentheses? That's important. Minus 4 times the a, which is a 2, times the c, which is a negative 7. Let's multiply this all together now. Negative 1 squared is just 1 minus 4 times 2 gives us an 8, and 8 times negative 7 is negative 56, so this is all negative 56. Minus a negative is the same thing as plus, the opposite, so this is 1 plus 56, so we end up with 57. So we have 1 plus 56 is 57. So the discriminant is equal to 57. This discriminant is positive number, which means that it is going to be a real number. It's not going to be imaginary. However, 57 is not a perfect square. If you take the square root of 57, you're not going to get a rational number. That means that the roots have to be a real number that is not rational. That means that the roots have to be a real number that is irrational. Which of the following choices best reflects that fact? Let's see. Here's a choice. It's real and irrational. That is what it's showing us, and so the answer for number 10 is 1. Before we finish this one, let's talk a little bit about the other choices. In order for it to be real, rational, and equal, that's just another way of saying that the roots are rational and then they are repeating when it says they're equal, that would mean that the discriminant would have had to have been a 0. If it had to be choice 2, the discriminant should have been 0. In order for the roots to be real, rational, and unequal, then the discriminant would have had to have been a perfect square, something like 4 or 16 or 25. 57 is what it came out to be. That's not a perfect square, and so the roots were not ever going to be rational. They were real, though, because 57 is greater than 0, which brings us to the fourth possibility. In order for the roots to be imaginary, the discriminant needs to come out to be a negative number. That's because we get imaginary numbers when we take the square root of negative values. 57 was not a negative value, and so the roots were not imaginary. The best choice in this case was number 1, because the discriminant was a positive number, but it was not a perfect square, and so the best choice is real and irrational, number 1.